I'm Alicia and I work at Hambledon House Community Centre. What we're doing today is we are recording one of our Southside stories with one of the locals in Cairns. This is Councillor Rob Pyne. You've probably seen him around. He is very active in Cairns, has been for some time. So, welcome Rob, it's really nice to have you.
Thank you Alicia, it's really good to be here.
Cool. So, first off, when I say you're a local, you are like a local, aren't you?
Yeah, look, I'm about fourth generation. I think my great-grandfather arrived here in the 1800s, but you know, I don't get too worked up about that because every time I see a local Indigenous person, I remember and acknowledge that their history is thousands of years.
Yeah.
So, I'm proud to be from here, yeah.
Yeah. So, 4 generations, what has your family done?
My great-great-grandfather came in on the Freddy, which was a boat that delivered supplies up here, so he was one of the early settlers. He was on the first, I think they called it the Cairns Regional Board, which was something the state government set up when they looked at the settlement of the local area around town. Why they settled in Cairns, I don't know. It was a pretty inhospitable place with mud flats and a lot of mosquitoes. So,
I was thinking mosquitoes, yeah.
But they seem to make something out of it.
Yeah, cool. And so your family, have they always been based on the south side of Cairns?
Yeah, I know grandfather was born in Wrights Creek, and Wrights Creek must have been bigger then than it is now. And Dad was born in Babinda Hospital and lived in Derail.
Okay.
And when he was quite young, his mum moved to Edmonton, where my mother and her family lived, the Wieners. They lived in, Mum's grandparents lived in the old southern suburbs rugby league clubhouse, which was, that was knocked down a few decades ago now, but that was on the south side of Edmonton.
Okay, wow. And so, your dad, did he work on the south side as well?
Yeah, Dad's first job was working for as a wood machinist.
Okay.
For somewhere Kent, I think the business's name was, but then he worked for Queensland Rail, and he lost his little finger in the saw machine, and that was good news because he was able to use the compo to buy a little mini miner.
Yep.
And then after that we leased the service station next door here in Edmonton. That's the servo on the north side of Edmonton for about 4 years.
Yep.
Including the big floods of 77 or 79, I'm not sure which year. And after that, Dad became chairman of the local Mulgrave Shire, which was the local government area.
Okay.
And that really took his life down that path of public service, I guess.
Yeah. So you talk about the Mulgrave Shire. Can you tell me what areas that actually looked after?
So the Mulgrave Shire started from Merrawinnie in the south and went all the way into Clark's Creek, which is where you drive over when you get to Stockland there.
Okay.
Indeed, sometimes if you park at Stockland, you get to get Clark's Creek through your car.
Yes, that's true. We try to avoid that though.
So, and once you got to there, you're in Cairns.
Yep. And
you're in Cairns till you got to the Barron River on the north side of Cairns.
Okay. And
once you cross the Barron River, you're back in the Mulgrave Shire again. So Dad was quite fortunate to be the mayor of the Mulgrave Shire because Cairns was landlocked with ageing infrastructure, and the Mulgrave Shire was quickly developing, and there was a lot of investment and prosperity in the area at that time. So and then at the south, of course, it was even in the north side, sugar was a big part of the culture and the economy.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, have you always been interested in politics yourself?
No, look, I never thought I would get involved in politics. I've always been interested in politics, but I never thought I'd be a politician. My interest in politics were always, I guess, what I'd call at the margins, because my politics is to the left. I just get outraged at the injustice I see in the world, and I see a lot of the media is just perpetuating the agenda of the ruling class and capitalist influence, and ordinary people just slip through the what's the term I'm looking
through the cracks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So mainstream politics didn't particularly interest me, but of course after I broke my neck, you've got to work, and politics is one of the jobs where all you have to use is your mouth. So I thought,
hopefully your brain as well.
well, yeah. Actually, if you use the brain before the mouth, I found it goes much better.
Yes.
But that was an opportunity, so it was a career opportunity. But once I got involved, I got really involved in local organisations, Mission Australia back then I was very involved with, and Communities for Children, and I found that really satisfying to work at that community level.
Yeah. Now you mentioned your accident, so can you explain a little bit about that?
So I was out on a boat. I've never really been a boating person, but my fiancée at the time, Jenny, her father had a little 20-foot sailing boat, so he said, do you want to come out? And I thought, okay, and we went out and were sailing out of Trinity Inlet. It was the 1st of December, so pretty hot and muggy, and I dived out of the boat to cool off, but my head, not long after, the water hit a sandbar. So when you dive in and you hit something head first, it just compresses the vertebrae in your neck.
Yeah.
So the C5 vertebrae dislodged and went across my spinal cord, which caused permanent spinal cord injury. So yeah, I've been a quadriplegic since the 1st of December 1991.
Okay. Now, for people who may not know, was your accident painful?
No, not really. I was a pretty wild fella growing up, so I was used to getting smacked in the head and whatnot. And I've got to say, it wasn't that painful. It was a good solid whack on the head, but from here down, of course, there was a feeling of nothingness. And I remember my hand ending up on my face, and it was really odd because I could feel my hand with my face, but I couldn't feel my face with my hand.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever had that sensation when maybe you go to sleep on your arm.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And yeah, it's sort of floppy.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I guess, the minute I did it, I thought, wow, this is it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it was sort of, you can imagine that the expletive that
How
that I had
old
at
were
the
you
time.
then?
I was 23 years old. Yeah.
So you were still very much a young man.
Yeah.
And were you very active back then as well?
Oh, handsome, active, attractive, muscular. Every year that passes, I get better.
Yeah. You're like a fine wine.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Every year that passes, the young man I was grows in my mind.
Oh, it's like that for everyone, don't worry. When you look back at photos of yourself and you're like, gosh, I wish I was as skinny as I was then when I thought I was really fat. Yeah.
The other thing that is amazing is when I was 23, I looked at a 40-year-old and I thought they were old, and now I look at a 40-year-old and think, I wish I was 40.
Yeah, you've got your whole life ahead of you. Okay, so you weren't really in any pain or anything. You'd be, you'd lived a active, rough life.
Yeah.
How did you feel in that instant?
It was just like, there was a real sense of awareness that this is life-changing, bang. Oh, what am I going to do? I've stuffed up. This is big.
Yeah.
So I knew the magnitude of what had happened.
Immediately?
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
I did. And and there was a sense of foreboding, I guess. And of course, the other aspect is I'm a fair way from shore. It goes quite shallow a long way out from Trinity Inlet. So the other aspect of it is the tide's coming in, and I'm on a little sandbar. And
how are they going to get you in the boat?
Yeah, exactly. And I was quite, a muscular, so heavy to lift.
Yeah.
And
of course, people would be wanting to be careful because they wouldn't want to hurt you any further, and not knowing.
So I'm just worried about the water, what we're going to do when the tide comes in. But fortunately, someone came and gave us a hand. A White Rock resident, interestingly enough. And
good old South Side people.
Well, I know that because when I was door knocking at election a few years later, I knocked on a door in White Rock, and the guy said, "Oh, I fished you out of the drink that day." So yeah, Cairns is certainly a lot it's bigger than it's ever been, but it's still small in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't go anywhere without seeing someone from Cairns. So immediately you realised that this was huge, this was life-changing. You mentioned you were engaged.
Yeah, I was engaged to my fiancée Jenny,
Yeah,
and we were getting married in about 6 weeks. So
yeah,
the timing wasn't great. We'd booked our holiday in Tasmania and everything.
yeah. I'm guessing you didn't get to go on that holiday
No.
just then? Yeah.
No. So following the accident, obviously by the time I got to back to land, ambulance had been organised,
Yeah,
and they put me on the good stuff and took me to Cairns Base Hospital.
yeah. And did you stay at the base or did you have to go somewhere else?
No, the diagnosis there was pretty quick that the spinal injury was a severe one, so I was flown straight to Princess Alexandra Hospital in Brisbane.
Yeah,
And I've got to say those 9 months in Brisbane were really difficult, you
Yeah.
know, to be away from home for that long.
yeah. And also I suppose learning how to redo things.
Yeah, exactly. And just obviously not being able to do a lot of things too.
Yeah,
And one thing about your spinal cord also helps regulate your temperature.
yeah.
So that winter in Brisbane was so cold.
Oh, I bet it was. Yeah. And so, what happened with you and Jenny?
Well, we actually got married while I was in hospital.
Yeah.
So
That's kind of romantic. That's the sort of things they do in TV shows.
yeah, it was again somewhat surreal, being showed by a nurse on your wedding day.
Yeah.
But Jenny was visiting the hospital, and there was an American who'd also had a spinal cord injury, and he said, "Oh no, I know your wife's coming. It'll be bad luck." And we wouldn't want our marriage to start with any bad luck. It's like, God help us! I could break my neck, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyhow, we got married, and I finished my rehab, and we moved back and lived in Bentley Park for a few years.
Yep.
And eventually JCU moved to a new campus on the north side of town, and I had to make a decision what to do. So we sold the house in Bentley Park and moved to Quarry Beach for a while.
Yep.
And I stayed out there and finished a degree in history and politics.
Yep.
With honours at JCU, and then I worked for JCU for a while too.
Yep.
Oh, my first elected position was as the president of the Cairns Campus Student Association.
Oh, there you go.
So that was how I first got in.
That gave you a taste, huh?
It did,
Mhm.
and it showed me that it was actually a sort of semi-paid position.
Yeah.
So you could actually make a living at this stuff. So,
Yeah.
and when I looked at the president before me had helped and had been part of the campaign to protect the hill slopes around the campus from property developers.
Yeah.
And it seems like I've been fighting property developers ever since. But that I saw that you can make a real difference.
Yeah.
And I think now looking at JCU and seeing those hill slopes around there and thinking they could all be houses, what a tragedy that would be.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about a tertiary institution that specialises in tropical excellence.
Yeah.
You know, that you want to protect the natural
It's a
environment.
beautiful campus.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's lovely.
Definitely is. And I think it also helps to set JCU apart from other universities.
And it did worry me from day one, though, that move to the south side in a way disenfranchised people in the south, because you did find greater access to the campus, greater levels of enrolment from the north side of town.
Yeah.
And since then, of course, we've had CQU move here,
Yep.
and they've promised to have a distinct focus on the south side. So
That's exciting.
So that's good. But whoever you are, you know, health and education is so important, and they can really affect your quality of life. So access to tertiary education is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you were councillor for Division 3 between what years?
2008 and 2015.
Okay, so that's around Warree area, isn't it?
Warree, it included part of Mount Sheridan there.
Yep.
It included half of Mount Sheridan, and White Rock
Yep.
was particular passion. I guess I had more of a passion for White Rock and Warree and Mount Sheridan because there are more battlers in that area.
Yep.
And I guess I've always had the attitude that sort of well-to-do areas will look after themselves.
Yeah.
Some politicians unfortunately have the opposite approach, but I just spent most of my time in White Rock and trying to focus on infrastructure in that areas and visiting White Rock School and Warrior School and those constituencies were particularly important to me.
Yeah.
And I was really happy to see the overpass that was built too, so the kids at White Rock could get to school at Warrior without having to cross the Bruce Highway. Because,
that is a scary one.
Yeah, so that overpass was really wonderful to see.
Yeah. Well, Warrie's kind of got its own little, I don't know, community going on itself. It's got like quite a really great little hub there.
Yeah, it has, but I still see, for example, if there's public housing proposed or say social services that maybe if they were proposed for Edge Hill or Whitfield, the good people of the suburb would object. So I still see like Warrior and White Rock being used to place and house more challenging social infrastructure, if you like, and that worries me because I don't think particular suburbs should miss out because their residents aren't necessarily as vocal, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of why the Cairns South Together project is so important, where it's, you know, a community of people working together to bring services and programs and things to the south, so we can be, you know, giving what our community needs, what our community wants.
And that's exactly the way to address the challenges I was so poorly trying to explain. That's right.
Yeah.
You need to do that.
Yeah, because there's so many great things about living on the south side. There really is.
I just often think we need to talk about, like, we understand the need for more services for disadvantaged groups, but sometimes like councils and whatnot, they have like uniform service standards, and I think that they should also recognise that they need to be investing more in some suburbs that often have higher population densities and higher levels of social need.
Yeah.
And I just think government as a whole needs to do that, and no more now than ever with the great need for social housing.
Yes.
And
that it really is a crisis.
It's a tragedy. It breaks your heart when you see people that can't get housing, and some of the overcrowding, of course, leads to other problems that are just tragic. So that's something we really need to keep pressuring government to provide.
So you were the councillor for Division 3.
Yep.
Then what happened?
In 2015, I was a member of the Labor Party. Look, I've always got on well with the Labor Party when they're in opposition, because when the Labor Party is in opposition, the LNP is in government, and when the LNP is in government, Labor is hammering them over their elitist, undemocratic policies where they look after the wealthier constituencies and don't look after ordinary people and don't give people a fair go. So when the Labor Party is bagging the LNP for looking after the big end of town, I'm happy to support them. Unfortunately, when Labor gets into government, they don't actually make many changes. So when I was elected as part of the Labor government in 2015 as a member for Cairns, I guess I had trouble with the lack of urgency in terms of addressing many of the areas that we've spoken about, particularly in West Cairns as well.
Yes.
We had a number of very nationally prominent tragedies in West Cairns, and social, in a couple of very highly disadvantaged social areas, and there were reports written, and nothing happened. And I got very frustrated over that and a number of other issues, and ended up resigning from the Labor Party. But I stayed on as an independent for the next 2 years in that term of Parliament.
Yep. And then, just recently, what's it been? Just over a year now?
March 2020, I was elected back onto Cairns Regional Council this time to represent Division 2,
Yeah.
which is the area that I grew up in. So
Yeah.
there's
Feels
some,
like home.
well, circularity. You know, I've
Yeah.
gone the full turn of the wheel,
Yeah.
and now I'm back where I grew up as a local councillor.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lovely feeling.
Yeah, awesome. Now, something as well, we're talking about circular right here. Something else that I found really interesting that's happened to you fairly recently. So you had that awful accident that day, changed your life. Just recently you've picked up another souvenir from that time.
Yeah, really amazing. The other day I had a call from the Yorkies Knob Boat Club to tell me they'd found my wallet. So on the 1st of December 1991, when I dived out of that boat, I had my wallet on me.
Which wasn't very smart in the first place, let's be honest. But
Well, it was one of those Velcro ones, and I used to wear Speedos a lot, so you just put them down the front of your shorts. But the last thing I was thinking about when I broke my neck was, where's my wallet? I hadn't given it a thought. And it ended up out in the mud,
yeah.
and that 1st of December 1991. And obviously it's moved north as the sand and mud tends to move north, and ended up at the Yorkies Knob Boat Club, and it's become covered in mud.
Yeah.
And anyhow, recently they were putting in a council toilet block, and they were digging, and up came my wallet.
That's amazing.
So they took it over to the Yorkies Knob Boat Club and hosed it off and called me, and I went and saw my old wallet with my driver's licence from 1990 and credit cards, and yeah, it was fascinating. To be archaeological things don't usually happen to you in your own lifetime.
No. Can you imagine if someone had found it in hundreds of years' time?
Yeah.
Like, oh, look at this. But still, you know, you're talking about life coming, you know, full circle, and here it is again, your wallet. And just, did it make you take stock of the last, 30 years?
The biggest regret was I've never been able to drive again, and seeing my old driver's licence there was a bit surreal. And also having not had ID over the years, it would have been handy to have a driver's licence to prove my identity.
Yeah.
But no, it certainly bring back thoughts. I was working for the public trustee at the time, and there are a lot of things about our community and our society that I actually think were better then in terms of public ownership, and I worked for the public trustee. I used to help people like who were buying and selling land, often people that couldn't afford a solicitor.
Yeah.
And I really loved helping people and doing that sort of work. And of course, the public trustee doesn't do that anymore. So they've gone more down the profit route, if you like, to justify their existence. And I miss the town I grew up in, and there's a bit of nostalgia there, as there is when I'm going around Edmonton and looking at the places I still know and the places that aren't what they used to be. But
I feel a little bit like that with Sugar World.
yeah.
You know, like I was kind of devastated when they took away those old slides, like the Cyclone and the Flying Fox and the Banana Bender. Oh my God, the Banana Bender, it was the Flying Fox, that very first curve. My goodness, it was terrifying. But
well, there is a lot of potential to do really good things at Sugar World to provide a first-rate public access. There's no reason that Sugar World area can't be as nice as Collins Avenue in Edge Hill.
yeah,
It's just a struggle on council when you've got 9 councillors, one really wants to see that, and of course you get this mentality of other councillors say, well, if he's got something, I'm missing out. And it's really fighting hard to try and get something for your area. But again, like I said, you know, I think it's time we started. If we really are serious about having one community, let's make a serious investment in those communities that are currently missing out. Let's really give them some services and facilities that they can be proud of. And guess what? You have a lot less antisocial behaviour. You'll have a lot less of that stuff if you'll just spend a bit of money and look after these communities and give them the same services that the tourism ministry manages to get access to in the CBD. And why can't the South Side get a fair go?
Yeah. So what's your favourite thing about the South Side?
It's just hard because I want to say to people, but the hill slopes I love too.
All right, you can two favourite things then.
The hill slopes and the people. You know, I think when you look around the place, wherever there's hills close to cities, the hills get developed.
Yeah.
And I think if we can keep our beautiful backdrop here, that's going to be something that'll be really good for locals and for tourists that come here as well.
Yeah.
But the people too, the people on the south side are pretty no nonsense, and that's really good. I don't really like pretentious people, and honestly, if there's one hatred in life that I have, it's when you meet people who think they're better than you and who think they're better than other people, and I don't see a lot of that on the south side, so I feel quite happy on the south side with the people that I meet and talk to.
All right, who do you think does the best coffee on the south side? These are the important questions.
I can do a top 5 if you like.
All right, shout out top 5.
Okay, so Giraffes comes in at number 5.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Coffee Club.
Where's the coffee club?
Mount Sheridan Coffee Club.
And Giraffes is at Edmonton, yeah?
Yep. So Coffee Club comes in at number 4. At number 3 is the Sugarcane Kitchen.
Oh yes, at Edmonton?
Yep.
Yeah.
The second best coffee on the south side is always on the corner of Bicentennial and Robert Road, and that's a van that sets up near
yes.
That's always the second best. And the best coffee you will get is in the food court at Mount Sheridan Plaza from Glen Ravelly at Ravelly Coffee.
Okay.
Yeah, Ravelly
Well, that's
Coffee.
good to know.
Yeah.
For all the coffee drinkers out there, I've asked
Definitely.
the important questions. But thank you so much, Rob, for taking the time to speak with us and to share some of your story. It's not over yet, which is also exciting. Like, you've done so much has happened, but still this story continues to be written. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing and being a part of our Southside Stories.
It was an honour, thank you, and look forward to speaking in the future.
Thank you.